everybody, it is Romania Black, and we are on episode 4 of Delicious in Dungeon, or Dungeon Meshy, whatever you want to call it. I'm super excited because last episode we had we made omelets, but we also got to learn about living armor, which was a lot of fun, and I'm super excited to see where we go to from here. I'm just really enjoying this show and the characters and the world building and the food. I think that it's a pretty solid recipe, right? For a good show. But I'm gonna be honest, I've recorded this episode a little bit ahead of when you all are watching it, and it was kind of like misting outside and raining today, and my hair got really damp, and whenever it gets damp, it's normally very straight, but when it gets damp, it gets this like kind of wave to it, and I was gonna re-straighten it out, but then I thought it made me look a little bit like Phelan, so I was like, or Fallon, I'm like, I'm just gonna kind of keep it, because it kind of looks like her hair. Like, would I be Laios' sister? Yes, I think I would. So that's where I'm at. But yeah, I'm super excited because so far this series has been really cool with its character development. It's given us little crumbs of Laios and his sister's background. It's just been all over a fun ride so far, and I'm really excited to see where it goes. So I want to give a special shout out not only to those that are on YouTube and Patreon that are supporting me, because you all are amazing, but also to my philanthropy tier who support me extra each month. You all have helped me buy the food so far, to buy the equipment, to do the full menu videos that I do after this. So I want to give you all a very, very well-deserved shout out. So thank you so much to Alex Cornejo, to Anime Annie, to Be Happy, to Bryant Reed, to Damage3245, to Dana, to Danger Zone, have to do that, to Danny Donmai, to Devorin, to Destiny Marie, as well as Ichu, Eric, as well as Ghostly Turnip and Fisho, El Freya, Liam Poles, Lyndon, Matthew Palfinier, Nameless Monster, no nickname, Nicholas, as well as Murphew, Shimoyama, Sunspots, Trails, Translucent Men, and Alexandra Q. Thank you all so much for your support. I greatly appreciate it. All of my love. So yeah, I'm super excited. It's been just like a drizzly, kind of like cold and gross day. It's definitely one of those days you want to get like a big cup of coffee and an anime you really enjoy watching and just sit back and just see how good it is. And Dungeon Meshi seemed like the winner today. And I don't think I'm wrong in saying that. So, but I'm super excited, y'all, to see what we get and to see what we're going to be making, because we made omelets last week from episode 2, because living armor was going to be a lot. And plus, I don't know, there's a little living armor hanging out in Laios' sword. We might come back to that at some point and make something out of it. Who knows? Or maybe he'll just keep him as a pet, you know. But in any case, I'm super excited to see what happens this episode. I hope you all are as well. So we're not going to waste any more time. We are going to dive right into episode 4 of Dungeon Meshi, Delicious in Dungeon. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Gonna go straight to the OP or get in a scene? Straight to the OP it is! Ooh! I love the walking mushrooms. They're so cute. So there is all of these travelers following through the dungeon and everything. And Marcel looks like she's perhaps come from far away to meet up with them. I like that they all look like giants as they're going through this, which is interesting. Like showing maybe where they came from originally. Yeah, I'm so interesting. They look like the male version of Casca. And I don't know, that's all I can think of is of this one character looking like from Berserk, the Casca, only they seem like they're male, so. And yeah, Fallon. Or is it Phelan? I will know again when they say her name. Also, all the female characters going towards Phelan, and then all of the male characters going towards Laios. I don't know what to make with that. Interesting. And then these all look like elves, so what are we gonna get? I always love that little river dance into the song. It's so fun. Like, yes, Delicious in Dungeon. What we gonna get this episode? Oh. The Forest of the Spire. Oh, and the third floor is the Golden Castle. Yeah, because it's been underground for so long. This narrator's interesting. Ooh. Feels like Legend of Zelda. Sup, man? How's it going, bro? Well, yeah, of course they'd be different. Nice. We've seen those in Berserk for sure. Yes, and we've seen it in Free Run as well. For your information. Ah! No! Yeah, what would you use them for? Senshi's like, I'm interested in the bodies. Thank you. Okay. Oh. I was gonna say, there's no place to sleep. Oh. So a lot of these residents have been, like, stuck between floors? Really? Dry bones. I think of Mario. Ooh. What? Marcel's like, I thought... You're using them as a garden! Oh my god! Yes! Why not? Well, why not use them? That's actually kind of genius. A moving garden. It's the people. No, yeah, exactly. Oh my god. That's genius. His little straw hat. Yes. His little straw hat. That's so funny. Oh my god. Oh my god, is the garden on their backs? Oh my god. Is this Minecraft? Oh, to get the magic out so that they'll stop. Yeah. Where the core is. Oh my god. I love it. Well, yeah, sure. Oh, they're symbiotic, so they help them. Yeah. Laios is like, look, it's so easy. Damn, Chill Chuck not being the allegations of being super attractive. All right. Marcel's like, yay, normal food. Wait, what? She's like, what? What do you mean? She's like, wait a minute. Right, of course. Oh, I love her with her ponytail. I'm just recycling. Bypassing the law. Oh my God. I love it. Yes. Hmm. Well, yeah. I mean, four people versus one. Uh, I gave them little names. Oh. Oh, that is so sweet, actually. Yeah. Look at Chilchuck's face. Oh. Oh, Laios is like, look at him. Good. Okay, so they're not just decomposing everything. I love Marcel with the ponytail. Oh. I love them working together. Yay. I don't need your magic. Oh. Ah. Convenience and ease aren't the same thing. Oh my God. She's like, don't patronize me. Not all of us have access to golems. The last of the basilisk bacon. Oh wow! A vegetable lunch from the golem garden. We can make that. Aww. Nice. She's like, don't make this weird. Don't make it weird. Don't make it weird, Laios. It's a secret. Is it like feces from like the compost? What are you taking care of? Aww. Oh. Uh. Feels very Digimon to see the little poo piles. Oh. Or it's the golems. Or it's the golems. Oh my God. Yes. Yes. Right, exactly. Yeah, that's a great question, Laios. Good job. Well, his life as a cook slash janitor? What? The zombies that fall in the toilet? Oh. Oh. Oh, wow. I like Puck looks so fierce there. Oh. Wow. Wow, okay. Oh my God. Huh. Aw, that's really cute. Yeah. Okay, so just being gone for a month or two. Oh, that's so sweet for Senshi. Oh, oh. Yes, he is. Our fabulous gardener janitor. Oh, we're going to trade a lot of lettuce. It's like a farmer's market. Oh. Mm. Oh. The carrots. Huh. She's like, we can't waste the food. She's like, they're also not monsters, so we have to eat these. Yeah. Look at all the potatoes. I love the carrot sticking out of Laios. Some shady figures. You come here with the cabbages? Uh-huh. Oh, they can't go back above ground. Look at them! You got some carrots, man? You got some carrots? I'll take some carrots. As you can see. Oh no! Right. Yeah. That's right. What? Oh! Oh! Oh, bitch, you did not! Oh, no! Oh, shit! What? Oh my god! What? Oh my god! Why is this happening? Oh my god. Leave Marcel alone! Oh, does he just want the cabbage? Oh my god! Ooh. Oh, them! Oh my god. The carrots kill me! Kobolds! I feel like Laios is a thing for furries, but that might just be my imagination. Oh. I thought it was supposed to be still asleep. Oh. Well, no, but you... Uh-oh. Oh my god. Since she's like, no, don't throw it away. We can use that for cottage cheese. Oh. Yeah, we're not in a bartering mood right now. Oh shit, no, not all of it. Oh. Oh! Oh, lives or vegetables! What? Okay! With the carrots, I can't. So, oh my god! Yes! Ah! You just wanted to make bread! Oh my god! That's so funny. Oh, how funny they say she has a barbaric face. Oh, oh my god, the baby orc! Ah! They're in the chicken coop! Oh my god. Yeah, I don't know if we're gonna be making bread on this channel. That's a lot. Look at the baby orc. Oh. Oh. Ah, we're gonna ignore that and talk about olive oil. Ah. Since she's like, we're gonna ignore this, talk about colonization, and talk about bread instead. Oh. Oh. Need it with more strength! Oh my god. Oh my god. I love it. Ah! So she's like, I'm gonna ignore all of this! And Lyos like, I have no stake in this fight. The baby orc is adorable. Hmm. Oh. He's like, I don't want the kingdom. I want to save my sister. Hmm. Oh. I think Lyos would actually be someone decent to get the castle. Girl. Oh my god. Ah, I love this! And she's like, never mind. No. He's just like, no, baby, you don't get to touch the bread. You don't get to touch the bread, baby. Nice. It's a peel apart, too. Oh. Hmm. Hmm. Oh. Oh. Uh, oh. Oh, well, since we're going to say that. Make them some random food. Oh, Senshi. Wow. Okay. Stewed cabbage. All right. It's like a little pita. Okay. Uh, okay. Yeah, it takes on a different meaning. Hmm. Good. I'm glad that Laos is answering the question. There we go. And that's a problem for them, so. Laos does seem to be a man of his word. Two floors. Oh, wow. Just two floors. Oh, my God. Hmm. Hmm. Well, you never know. There we go. Aww. That little baby orc is so cute. Oh! His little ears. I can't. He's too cute. Oh. Oh, how cute. Oh my God. With him holding up the little cabbage. Oh, that's so sweet. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Super exciting. The dishes this week, I think, would be very doable. With the cabbage and the chicken, and I don't think we can make bread. I think my brother would kill me if I tried to make homemade bread. I don't know. We'll think about that. I'll think about what we're going to make as far as that goes, but the other stuff with the cabbage and all that would be fairly simple, but and the leftover basilisk bacon. We do have some leftover bacon, so we could do that. We could incorporate that. Ah! All right. See, there's a dragon there, but it is not. And there's Senshi looking after it. Yeah. But it's a green dragon, not the red one. I love Marcel being like, oh my God, no. Interesting. Okay, and that's it. Oh! Well, we should definitely talk about this episode. All right. Hey! So I figured that this would be a great time to bring out Whiteboard Coon because Whiteboard Coon needs to be brought out. And I can't remember if I've used Whiteboard Coon yet for this series or not, but if not, welcome to Whiteboard Coon, who is explainer of all things. And they're going to help me out this episode because we do have things to talk about because we're talking about different races and species in this series and about their histories, and it's world building that we need to get done. But one thing I love about this series is that they establish one very important thing. Regardless of what species you are, regardless of what level of the dungeon you are in, everyone needs food. And what brings people together but food, basic necessity of survival. And so I kind of love that. I love that Senshi the whole time is like he keeps making the bread while Marcel and the orc are having this conversation. And at the end of the day, he's like, look, food brings people together regardless. And if you make food together, I also like how the baby orc was not someone that, because prejudice and hate is taught. You're not born hating things. You're naturally born being an open-minded individual, but people get molded by their environments, by nature and nurture. So, this kid does not have the prejudices and hatred built in like the adults orcs do through their experiences. So he's just like, well, but they're making us food, so why don't we share? And it's like, and then, of course, Senshi and the others kind of use that to get the ball rolling for them. But yeah, so let's talk about this episode. I think there's a lot of stuff going on. Senshi is a damn beast, literally. Senshi is amazing, and I kind of love him. Like, what a man that can do it all, right? He can cook, he can clean, he can be self-sufficient. Ladies, gentlemen, what more do we need, right? So basically, they announce, as we go through this, we back up a little bit here, in the third basement floor of the dungeon. So we need to we have land up here, right? And we have basement floor 1, basement floor 2, and right now we are in basement floor 3 of the dungeon. That's where we are at. And they say that through an underground graveyard, past the forest of the spires and all that, once you go past the forest and the graveyard, which the graveyard I'm assuming was connected to last episode, then you reach the Golden Castle. That's where we're at, because we're kind of like descending into Dante's Inferno, literally. So then you get to the Golden Castle level. And from here, they're like, yeah, it used to be really nice, but it's been moldy and underground for so long, it's not really what it used to be. It's pretty gross. And they're like, you can see all sorts of things, like they have enchanted skeletons and all this. I like that Marcel has the little fireflies that glow around to help them find their way. Also, I like that Laios has a really keen ear. His senses are pretty keen, and he can detect when something is coming, like a skeleton or a human. And honestly, I'm kind of with Laios. You would probably know the difference between a skeleton walking around and a human because of the bones and the rattling and all of that. I also love whenever the people walk by, they're just like, sup, bro. like it's just totally normal to be walking around the dungeon. And they're like, hey, how's it going? But he's like, well, that's a ghoul, that's this and that. And he's like, you can definitely tell the difference if you just pay attention. I think Laios being able to hyper-focus kind of helps him out in terms of that. But then they're like, oh, we need to go left because there's possibly a golem. And since she's like, actually, we need to stop here because these golems are something that I've been working with for quite a while down the dungeon. So we also have basement level 4. And basically, between the second and fourth floors is where Senshi has been throughout most of this series. So he says that he's lived kind of down there. And then we kind of know that about 2 floors down in B5 is where the dragon that has supposedly ate the sister is at. Which, if we face this dragon like a lot sooner than later, then I'm like, oh, I thought the dragon was going to be like end of season business. But no, this damn dragon is going to be like, maybe within the next couple of episodes, unless they get ejected back to the surface for some reason. I don't know. That's just kind of crazy to me. I do love that now that I have read Berserk, seeing some of the elements and creatures from that series, like the golems, which we saw them in Free Run too, but seeing them, they look like the ones from Berserk here, which is really fun, but that they're used as a puppet for its master's command. But the thing about it that's kind of interesting is that Senshi brings up that there were 11 golems, but a lot of them have been destroyed over time, and now there's only 3 that he is using. And Marcel brings up the fact that he is, illegally using these golems by controlling them, and he's like, oh, well, but I'm not really recontrolling them. I'm just using what was already in place. And so he's kind of like found a loophole so that he doesn't get in trouble. We also established that you have to have permission to create magical creatures, which is something regulated, which is not what I expected in this world, that they were going to regulate magical creatures being used by the guilds, but makes sense. And so he's like, they're genuinely magical creatures. And then, of course, I like that. I like Laios is like, teach me to make a golem. And she's like, no. She's like, what would you use it for? But honestly, the idea of using the golem to grow vegetables is insanely clever. Like, so clever that they're mostly dirt. And then there's like feces and other material that's being used as fertilizer. And that's so cool. Like, I would not have thought of using a golem for that purpose, but I kind of love it. So he's like, I usually stay between the second and fourth floor, and once a month I shop for seasoning and other things that I lack in town. And that's when I met you all. So I like also the fact that in the world building, we're establishing that there are people who have lived in this dungeon between floors for a long time. Again, there is this sense that even though the goal is to get to the bottom of the dungeon and defeat the mage and become king of the whole castle, one, it's not been accomplished. And two, people kind of just either give up or reach a point where they're stagnant, or maybe that wasn't their goal at all to begin with. And so they're using the dungeon for other things, like what Senshi is doing. And so it creates this idea that not everybody in the dungeon is after the mage to kill him. There's people who have, one, either set up camp and they have like a lifelong pursuit that they can do down in the dungeon that they can't do on land. Two, they are criminals who have been banished from the surface, so they're stuck down here. Or three, they've been forced into the dungeons, which we'll talk about. Or four, they are pursuing to kill the mage. So yeah, not everybody down in the dungeon is going after the One Piece. They all have different goals and objectives, and Senshi and the orcs are just two of those examples. He's like, there's not much you can eat on the third floor here, but the golems can be used as literal living gardens. And he brings up a good point about basically what the golems were doing for the castle. I love when he gives them all like the gardening tools. And he's like, the people in this castle are going to weep, and so will the scholars of magic. And he's like, why? He's like, I don't like magic, but these creatures, they're pretty awesome by themselves. I love that he puts the straw hat on and his like little helmet, like the horns come out from it. It's super cute. But yeah, he established how convenient of a garden that they are. He's like, they're great. He's like, they don't let insects get a hold of them. They don't let people steal the vegetables. And they're like, I don't think that's what they were trying to do. And then he just like brushes over it. He's like, they're mobile and they control the moisture levels in the dungeons. So they grow all of this cultivated plant life with very little maintenance. He's like, you have to tend them carefully, but that's just when you're collecting the vegetables, which is really funny to me. But yeah, he kind of establishes that the dungeons themselves have their own ecosystem. And he's, it's kind of a pro-environmental message where he's like, when we interrupt the ecosystem, it sets off a chain reaction. So he talks about how there were 11 golems, but now there's only 3. Well, if the golems are absorbing moisture, and if they're doing like their part to ward off insects and bugs, he's like, if we destroy the golems, then the castle will likely become even more moldy and inhabitable. And then the monsters from below will be able to keep going up to the surface and causing a lot of problems. So he's like, I'm trying to maintain sort of the status quo that's making this floor livable. And he's just trying to do his job as far as that goes. But I thought it was super neat. And the fact that he is able, Senshi can do his own thing. He is not going to let these golems stop him. And he has a system worked out, right? But he's like, we basically have a symbiotic relationship. I help keep the golems stable in this level, and they supply me with food. And it's not parasitic, it's symbiotic. There's a synthesis. We all work together, and it works out fairly well. And then he's like, let's get the weeds out and collect all these vegetables. Can we talk about Chilchuck, though? Chilchuck, I mean, Senshi can get, all of the male characters in this series can get it. I like Marcel. She's pretty, and I love her with her ponytail. Her and her ponytail is super cute. I love it. It looks really great on her. But Laios can get it. Senshi can get it. Chilchuck can get it. Orc Daddy can get it. Every male character in this series so far can get it. I'm not complaining. I'm perfectly fine with all of this. But it's so cute. I love that these scenes that are clearly from the manga that have been animated are great. And she's like, look, we have all these normal vegetables. And he's like, so the weeds over there. He's like, bring the weeds over there. We're going to let them wither and become compost. I'm going to use them alongside the urine and the feces to make fertilizer. And we're going to start this process all over again. I love it. It's great. He's like, I mix it into the golems. And they're like, so you've bypassed the law by doing this. And he's like, but he's like, this is really important. And I like that he talks about certain things with farming that a lot of people may not know about. Like, for example, monocropping. So if you grow up around any type of farms, you may notice that one year they're planting corn, the next year might be soybeans, the year after that might be something different. And it's just because you have to plant different crops because it will affect the balance in the soil and you don't want to like completely ruin a terrain, right? If you plant the same crop over and over again, it will strip it of its nutrients. So yeah, you just have to sow different seeds. I love it. I love how organic this episode is. It's so nice. I also love that Marcel's like, this was more tiring than fighting a monster. Because yeah, you just fight a monster once and they're gone. Here, it's like a process. And it's no wonder that Senshi is a literal beast because he's been doing this over and over and over again by himself, which requires a lot of manpower or dwarf power, however you want to do it. So our dude has a lot of stamina. He's like, I got it done much quicker thanks to you all helping me. And so I like that they also established in this series that characters go to the bathroom. I did never think I would be commenting about that, but that is something, right? Like, especially them. I mean, obviously it related to them using the urine and feces for the fertilizer. So I'm glad that they touched base on it. But honestly, it's something that I do wonder in series because they never call it out. And it's like, yeah, everybody would have to eventually go to the restroom in said series. So Senshi says, while the elven girl is gone, let's gather up all this scattered soil and put it back in the golem so it'll be ready to plant and they can like come back to life when they need to. So anyway, from there they start making the meal that they're going to do, which I honestly think I don't know if I'm good enough to make bread. I don't know if I'm going to, I think I would disappoint Senshi if I tried to make bread, but the cabbage with the carrots and the onions and potatoes, that's easy. That's easy peasy lemon squeezy. We could definitely do that. We could do a thing where we try to make both type of meals. Maybe. Who knows? I don't know. And so I do like that he says you need to have a skill, like starting a fire. It's fine to use a lighter, to use your magic, but you need to know how to do it in case if you don't have that lighter, how are you going to make fire? Like you need to know a skill. Like it's convenience is one thing, but ease is something different. I like that he points that out. He's like, you need to have skills to survive. Otherwise, you could be out of luck somewhere. He's like, your method's no different. I like that he's so condescending to her where he's like, you would just buy vegetables from a store. And she's like, yeah, because I don't have 3 golems to be a garden. I did want to tell Senshi, be like, look, Senshi, not everybody has the means to make their own giant mega garden. So give Marcel a break. But I do think he's like, it's important to know the process and the work that goes into making your own food because it is a big, serious thing. So yeah, I like that Laios is lighting the fire. They're getting everything ready. And he's like, this is the last of our basilisk bacon, but we're going to use it. And we're going to end up putting that in the pot with the food. Yep. Super cute. Fresh vegetable lunch from the Golem garden. Nice. I just love that this series also features them just sitting around talking and eating, which is, you would think would get boring after a while, but it's actually super cute. And I really like it. And my dog is like wanting me to play with him. And she's like, it's super good. And so then they finish eating and they decide, and they talk about the toilets being proper and they're not just holes dug in the ground, which I was genuinely wondering. They're like in busy areas of the dungeon. there are designated spots for people to relieve themselves, which, again, would not have known, did not think that was something I needed to know, but it ties to Senshi being someone that helps to keep them clean. And I'm like, look at him. There's some diligent people around here. And that's when Senshi walks around and they see him with the chamber pots. She's like, what are you doing? And he's like, I've got to collect them and carry them back and forth so I can use them for my fertilizer. He's like, they're crucial down here, which is super cute. So then she's like, I know that it's used for fertilizer, but it's still gross. So then Laios says, why are you sticking around here? Why don't you go back to the surface? Wouldn't that be a lot easier down there? But he says that, I mean, Senshi seems like the type that he wants to help people and he can't just abandon someone when they're in need. So he's like, if I don't do this, then who's going to maintain the toilets? Who's going to feed the golems? Who's going to do all this? He's like, who's going to remove the zombies that fall inside of them? He's like, somebody has to do it. He's like, someone has to be the helper. And I kind of love Senshi for it because it establishes him as someone that wants to do good. And he's kind of like an unsung hero. He isn't just doing it for the glory. He's legit trying to help people. And he's doing this in a very behind the scenes manner, which is so cool. And I respect him so much for it. I'm like, hell yes, Senshi, be that janitor, be that cook. They're very much unsung hero jobs because they're necessary for people, but they don't get a lot of respect, right? Also, when they talk about the monsters that could come up, one of them looks like Puck from Berserk, only the evil version, which is kind of funny. And I love that. But I just love the fact that Senshi, he just wants to stay in the dungeon, like make his monster meals, clean up, and just like help people. It's super sweet. And he says it makes him happy. And of course, Laios is like, you know, I feel like Laios is all about finding what makes you happy and what brings you happiness. And the fact that since she's so unapologetic and just like out there in the open with what he wants, I feel like Laios is kind of like inspired by that. Like, oh, okay, cool. Well, you have no shame just saying that that's what you want to do. I love it. It's great. He's like, but if that's the case, you know, is it okay if you leave? And he's like, oh, we're only going to be gone a month or two. And then he's like, I can come back after that. It's totally fine. So anyway, he talks about leaving like extra produce out and putting a money box out, which there are people where I live that do that. They kind of have like they call it like a farmer's market stand, but they will leave out produce and fruits and vegetables and they'll have a box. Now it's monitored by a camera, mind you. So if anybody tries to steal it, they're going to catch them on camera stealing from the box. But it's only happened once, but usually you just leave money and you get the food and you go, and they keep track of it that way. There was one person that did steal the money box though, which kind of sucked, but then you have Marcel and Chillchuck that are like, oh, that's what that money was. Oh, they're like, we totally stole from that box. Whoops. Never mind. I also love the idea of Laios with the carrots coming out of his armor. Cracked me the hell up. That was so cute and funny. I thought that was hilarious. And he's like, you can't throw them away if you don't need them. And she's like, no. He's like, we can't have this food waste. She's like, look how good it looks. She's like, this is the one chance I have to eat food that's not a monster. We can't throw this away. And Chillchuck's like, see, she's pretty obsessed with this food. She's grown attached to it. So then they decide they're going to go to this place and trade. Granted, let's talk about the place they go to. So since she says they're meeting, he's like, many of my customers are going to meet us here. So let's just go wait for them down here. And so they talk about them being adventurers who, for reasons, can't go back above ground. Now, to me, when the orcs come and completely kill everyone, I feel like they had to set this up because the orcs killing everyone, under any other circumstance, you'd be like, oh my God, they're killing everyone. But they do this one moment to set up being like, oh, hey, this is like a den of thieves. They're all criminals and kind of bad people. So it's fine. Just like not even beating around the bush, not even like apologetic at all. They're like, nope, they did. So I love the shot of all them standing in the doorway with the bags of flour, the carrots, and the cabbage. And this one like little goblin comes up and asks them to trade. And he's like, oh, you don't have money? Get out. And they're like, no. And that's when the orcs show up and literally just start slaughtering everyone. And it's just insane. And then Senshi's like, oh, hey, guys. Fancy meeting you here. He's like, these are my friends. These are my customers. Marcel's like, oh my God. I figured he meant folks, but orcs, huh? I like that Marcel has a cabbage inside of her staff. That's actually super, super clever and cute. And then, okay, so Chilchuck thought that when Senshi meant folks that were kind of like shady customers, Chilchuck thought that he meant goblins. And then Laios thought that he meant kobolds. And I'm like, what the heck is a kobold? So I want to look that up real quick on my phone and be like, what the heck is a kobold? So a kobold, if we look this up through the magic of the internet, tells us if it will actually give us something. And of course, my internet is not being the best. So a kobold, tell me things. It looks like a wolf. Oh, okay. It is a generic name for a household spirit in German folklore, a Hausgeist. It may invisibly make noises or perform kitchen work. Oh, okay. So that one looks like a wolf or a fox, but in the images that I see, they look a little bit more dragon-like or lizard-like. So, okay. For a second, I was like, is Laios into the furry culture? I wouldn't doubt that. I'm okay. We'll go with that. But I thought that was interesting the way they chose to draw them. But anyway, so they said the red dragon showed up. And the orc is like, it rarely appeared in the past, but it's been showing up near our settlement. So it's not asleep like we thought. It's showing up near where they're at. And he's like, there's some who can't fight in our settlement. So we came to this floor to get temporary refuge. And here we are. And so they're like, is it the same red dragon? And Laios is like, where'd you see it? He also has carrots in the belt of his armor. That's so funny. And of course, the orc is like, well, we don't want to tell you where our settlement is because you could come and invade it. And Laios is like, I really just want to find my sister. So they're like, okay, we killed everybody. So we're going to carry out anything that might be useful. And I like that since she's like, don't you throw away that fermented yeast. We're going to use that to make bread. So then the orc is like, we're not going to barter because we, like I said, can't afford that right now. And since she's like, well, shit. He's like, I hate to ask you this since you're a friend, but you're going to have to give us all your stuff. And since she's like, well, that's not going to work because we need this food to survive as well. But he's like, take us to your settlement and we'll make food. So then as they're going to their settlement, Marcel's like, well, why did you agree to this? She's like, they took our weapons. And Chilchuck's like, if we know where they live, they're not going to let us leave alive. And Laios is like, you have a plan, don't you? And he's like, yeah, we're going to make food. We're going to make bread, bitches. I like my idea is to make bread. And I love that they're all like, are you freaking kidding me? They're all like trying to strangle him. That's so funny. And then the baby orc comes out who is too precious for words. The baby orc is adorable. And I absolutely love him. He's so freaking cute, right? So instead, they get put in this chicken coop, which is hilarious. And honestly, as a chicken coop, I'm like, is that going to keep the chickens in there? They can fly out of that, but okay, maybe they clipped all their wings. Who knows? But anyway, so then we go to the process of making bread, which is mixing together the wheat flour, salt, sugar, the leaven, and water, which sounds simple enough, but bread can go very wrong. So he's like, gotta knead it till it comes together. The kneading part is the hard part because if you've watched the Great British Baking Show, as I have, kneading bread is really difficult. And if you do it too much or too little, it will make the whole bread go awry. So then I like that the little baby orc asks if they're playing with mud. And I thought it was interesting that the elf, Marcel, was called a barbarian when she came into the camp because of how she looks, which is so fascinating to me. Because again, standards of beauty and everything. So then the orc gives this history lesson about about everything. And Chilchuck and Laios and everyone looks so uncomfortable during it. It's like, hi colonizers, would you like to tell the story of of how all this goes down. And it's like, but yeah, basically it's like, do you have guilt over everything that your species have done to other species? But Marcel doesn't take it standing down. She's kind of like, well, but you all did the same. So what I like about this episode is, I mean, Chilchuck and Laios are like, yeah, we kind of know that we've done some bad, our people have done bad things to your people, and that's really bad. Marcel kind of doesn't take it standing down. She's like, but you all did bad things too. And so I like that they kind of have this dialogue where they talk back and forth and share each of their worldviews about what's been going down while Senshi's like making the bread. Because honestly, it was giving me vibes that are kind of like Attack on Titan in a way, I guess, based on what's talked about in that series. But in any case, what I like about it is that they're able to have this dialogue and talk about how each of their sides feels about what's happened to their people. Because, I mean, the orc makes some really amazing points, but then Marcel is like, but here's what we think, and here's what's happened with us too. So just like in other series that I've watched, anytime there's conflict, the best thing you can do is hear both sides out. And even if you don't end up agreeing with each other, just hearing out why each other thinks the way that they do creates understanding that can allow you to move forward in a productive way. And obviously it's a lot more complicated because we're talking about like their lands being taken over and their people being persecuted. It's a big complicated topic, but the basis of it is the food brings them together and they're able to kind of talk out and find some form of common ground, even just for the moment, which is huge, right? So since she talks about kneading it and doing all this and how to make the bread, and so while the orc and Marcel are talking about how each other have caused all these conflicts over and over again, I like that they're able to do it around the idea of making bread as she's slapping the bread into the pan, right? I love it that they get to like make the bread and take their anger and aggression out on the bread instead of each other. Don't know how that would have affected the bread in real life, but you know. And I love that Senshi gets on to Chilchuck for not kneading the bread with enough strength. Anyway, so them kneading the bread and doing all that and then adding the eggs. I love the baby orc is still the cutest. So then, because Laios has been very quiet throughout all of this, the orc says that anyone who defeats the lunatic magician who built this place would inherit the entire castle. So he's like, Laios, what would you do? Why are you trying to go to the depths of the dungeon? And the thing about it is, now they're trying to go rescue his sister. But before, it's like, why were you trying to go down there in the first place? What was the point of going down there when she was eaten by the dragon anyway? If you gain the kingdom, what would you do? And Laios is like, well, I never really thought of that. And so then the orc kind of gives him a hard time, being like, are you kidding me? Then, all adventurers are like you. They don't think about what they would do. You make your daily wage and you test your skills, but you're all just greedy fools. And he's like, if one of you gained the castle, he's like, would you be thinking about like us orcs and our kids? As he's like sitting there patting his son's head. He's like, would you think about what would happen to the people of the castle if you gained it entirely? That's why we kill anyone from the surface that we can find. And Marcel's like, well, that's a bad excuse. You should compete for the throne as well if you think, or is plundering the only thing that you could do? And then he's like, well, at least you have an attitude and you've got a spine, girl. And Marcel's like, yeah, sure. And then he talks about throwing her into the fire alive. And she's like, see, you turned to violence so quickly instead of just solving things. And then meanwhile, since she's like, let's just go to the next step about the second fermentation, which basically is like proving the dough. Proving the dough is also very important as well if you are going to make bread. Again, bread making is a big process. It's a lot of work. It really is. And my favorite part of this whole episode, I'm sorry, the baby orc is the best part of this episode. My favorite still shot is that while Marcel and Orc Daddy are like on opposite sides, that baby orc goes in to like grab the bread and she's like, no. Like, that's the best part of the whole damn episode. So, just absolutely loved it. That was so cute. It was great. So then once the dough has proved and expanded, you basically just bake it. Right? And then you end up with this bread. So I love that the baby orc is like, but we're not just going to like, they went to all that trouble to make the bread. We're not going to let them just not have any, right? And then Marcel's like, well, no, we have to make other food too. I like Marcel's character a lot. I'm liking her more and more as the series goes on. She's very outspoken and she's not always correct. Like sometimes she speaks a little too soon, but she's not afraid to kind of defend herself and stand up for what she thinks. And she isn't afraid to talk and communicate. She doesn't just like kind of like Chill Chick and Laios were like, yeah, that's true. She doesn't take that. She like challenges the orc, which I think is pretty cool. So yeah, they end up making this whole damn meal. They're like, we're just going to wait till we're ready. And then of course, then she's like, well, you know, you did say we could make this food and stay the night and you wouldn't want to break your promises in front of your kid, right? Love it. Hilarious. So yeah, then they make the food, which is super cute. Now, what it looks like is you have the bread, and they talk about it. I want to go back and see how they labeled it in the episode. But they do cabbage and potatoes and the chicken. And I love that she's just trying all the food. Freshly picked stewed cabbage. So what it looks like is there's the chicken wings, chicken breast, and there's the onions. They have peppers in with their cabbage. It looks almost like a curry. And then it's stewed, and they have the bread. And it looks like they have pita with, like, the shredded cabbage and pickles. Like, it looks interesting. I'm curious. Because you could put the stewed cabbage onto it, and that's interesting indeed. It also looks spicy because it looks like it has, like, pepper flakes and actual pepper in it. So, we'll have to test that out here and see where we go to with that. But, Anyway. So then she's like, you know, I thought you all were just good for pillaging, but you can be pretty decent too as cooks. I love that. I love this little mutual coming together over the food, right? So then Laios says, you asked me why I was trying to reach the depths of the dungeon. He's like, I thought about it. And he's like, my sister was eaten by the red dragon, and that's why I'm going after it. And he's like, if you tell us where it is, we'll defeat the red dragon. And that obviously is a big boon for the orcs, because the orcs are like, we don't want to mess with this thing. And he's like, we won't involve your settlement at all. We'll go do it ourselves. And the orc's like, well, that's not a bad deal if you guys are going to go do the work for us. And then Laios is like, I promise. And he definitely has, Laios has that 1,000-yard stare of, if I tell you I'm going to do something, I'm genuinely going to do it. And I love Laios for that. I think he's amazing for that, honestly. And so the orc is like, okay. Like, sure. And he's like, give me a map and I'll tell y'all where the dragon is. So it's 2 floors under this one. So the last time we saw it, it was around the west residential area. So yeah, 2 floors down. And then Laios is like, thank you. So he gets the map from the orcs, which is great. And he's like, from now on, I'll think about the possibility of gaining this dungeon as I explore it. And he's like, well, it'd be tough to imagine a guy who gets captured by an orc and bakes bread to become a king, but good luck. So yeah, and Laios is like all blushy and everything, which is super cute. But yeah, I like the idea that this episode, because the orc brings up a really good point. He's like, everybody down here, there are people that are trying to live down here, that are people that are hiding, and that there are people that are forced to be here. And then the ones that are pursuing becoming king, it's like, what will you do? And what he's saying is, like, a lot of the people that have this idea to pursue and kill the mage, they haven't thought about the other people that are living there under various circumstances, like the orcs. So he's like, the people going down the dungeon, they just want glory or fame or power. They're not considering how them gaining the castle will impact everyone that's part of this ecosystem. So he's like, I'm not saying, you know, throw us a bone. I'm not saying do anything for us. But all I'm asking is that you consider that if you gain this power, we're going to be affected. And remember that. And Laios is like, I'm going to think about that and what I could do as I move forward. And I'm like, good job, Laios. Also, that baby orc is the cutest thing in the world. I freaking love it. It's adorable. It's almost as big as Chilchuck. I love it, so cute. And then Marcel being like, you know, did you know the cabbage was growing on the back of a golem? The way he like tilts his little head, I'm sorry. The way he tilts his little head like, what? Is the cutest thing in the world. in the world. Adorable. Love it. And so then they wave, and it says, even though people have varying views, they all experience hunger. Yep, and he holds up the little cabbage, the baby orc. It may only be dungeon food, but it's still dungeon food. That's why, like, earlier this year, my charity for the channel was supporting the World Health Kitchen, because they go around the world wherever there's people impoverished or in need of food because of natural disasters, because of war and conflict. And that was one of their mission statements, was the idea that people, no matter what side anyone thinks politically or anything, people need food. And that's just the way it is. And there's civilians, there's children that need food to survive. So I love the idea of just connecting with people through food. That's something that's a basic necessity and a basic right of someone to have. So nice. But yeah, so you all will see very shortly the type of food that my brother and I decided to cook up for this episode today. So I'm pretty excited about that. But what a great episode with a message and character building and world building. And we got to bring Whiteboard Coon out. Fun times, right? But it feels like we're going to maybe get to the dragon sooner than later. So who knew? But yeah. Anyway, I'm super excited to hear your thoughts down below if you're not sticking around for the cooking video at the end. But I hope you all have a wonderful week. Stay safe, take care, and now let's go get in the kitchen and see what all we can whip up. All right, so we are ready to start making our Golem field garden lunch. Fresh lunch, if you will. And I will honestly say this is probably the most fresh lunch I've made in recent memory. Before my brother gets here, I want to go over just kind of the ingredients that I'm going to be using and kind of inspirations behind this, because honestly, there were a lot of interpretations online of how to make this actual meal. If you go online, you're probably going to find probably 4 or 5 different iterations of this lunch, because even though this is honestly one of the most realistic things you can make on the show so far, there are lots of different ways that people end up doing it based on your tastes and preferences. So we're going to try to be accurate as we can with the actual episode, but we're going to be doing a couple of modifications just for food safety and things like that. So, and because I'm in the middle of a rural area and finding some of these ingredients is not practical. So, let's go ahead and start. I did take inspiration from Fiction Food over on Instagram, and I will have a link to their post down below in the description, as well as on the full menu video. And I did look at Underdark Cellars, their video as well, although these are going to be modifications from both of those and kind of just my own hodgepodge put together alchemy. If my brother finds out about this, he's going to be like, it's a recipe for disaster, but it's okay. So basically, let's go over what we've got. One thing I really like about this recipe is that there is a lot of recycling. There is a lot of, if you're somebody that is on a tight budget, or if you live by yourself, or if you just don't like wasting food, there is a lot of layover that we're going to actually take, just like Senshi does in the episode, from our first 2 meals and incorporate into this one, which I thought was really cool, that you get to use some of your prior ingredients in this one. So we're going to actually, rather than buy a whole other head of cabbage, which seemed like a waste because I don't eat cabbage a lot, we're going to use the leftover Napa cabbage from the hot pot that's still good, and we're going to use that in the soup. Now, I know it's not traditional cabbage, it's Napa cabbage, it's a little bit different, but I was like, we're just going to recycle and not be wasteful, so we're going to be using that. We're also going to be peeling and cutting up some russet, these aren't russet potatoes, these are basically potatoes that are going to be used in our stew itself. We're going to be cutting up 3 of those. It's just my brother and I, so this is enough cabbage, these are enough potatoes. And then our basilisk bacon that we used in the last episode, there's still some left, so I'm actually going to be using it. Now what I'm actually going to do is cut this up. In the episode itself, they laid the bacon in the stew. I'm not comfortable necessarily putting raw bacon into a soup. For food safety reasons, that bothers me a little bit. I don't want anybody getting food poisoning. I'm sure there's a way to do it, but for time's sake, because we don't have all day to make this soup, if I was making it in a crock pot, it'd probably be a little bit different. But what I'm actually probably going to do is what Underdark Cellars does in their video, and I'm actually going to cut up this bacon into smaller chunks and put it in here and bake it and cook it a little bit, at least get it not crispy, but cooked where it's safe to consume. to be put in the soup itself. So, and also we can use the bacon grease then to help kind of with the broth and stuff like that. So that's going to be the idea. We'll see if it works out. Then I also have, we have salt and pepper, which was to taste as it was in the episode. I'm also going to be putting in some parsley flakes into the soup because parsley sounds like something that could be used. And we've got some minced garlic from the last video. I'm not going to waste. We're going to put some minced garlic in with the bacon, give it some more flavor. I love garlic as a flavor. Garlic and potatoes, you can't go wrong, right? So we're going to be doing that too. Then we also have some thyme that a lot of the videos recommend putting into the soup itself. We're going to be doing that. Some bay leaves were also recommended to put on top of the soup. We're going to be doing that as well. And then we obviously have to have our carrots. Now these carrots are going to be used for both the stew itself, but then a few of them are going to be used in the turnip salad that was also featured in the episode. I'll be honest with y'all, I'm not a big carrot person, especially raw carrots. I like cooked carrots, so I'm not opposed to them being in the stew. I don't really like raw carrots very much. So our turnip salad's not going to have a lot of carrot in it. And plus, these were the carrots that were at the grocery store. Guess what? They don't have carrot greens, which are the main part of the turnip salad. And I was like, ugh. Hashtag rural problems. So what I'm going to be doing in lieu of carrot greens, because there just wasn't any around at the store I went to, is that I have a nice package here of romaine lettuce. I'm going to be chopping up to be like a chopped salad. So like the consistency of the carrot greens, we're going to make it work. And plus my brother doesn't like salads, so he'll probably just sit that one out and be like, you can eat the carrot and turnip salad. And I'll be like, yeah. So we also have some sweet onions to put in the stew itself. I definitely want to recommend, if you are going to buy ingredients for this stew, make sure to check what kind of onions you get, because there were literally 4 onions in a row in different bins at the grocery store that all looked quite similar. And if I hadn't been checking, I probably would have grabbed the wrong onion, because there's just regular onions, there's red onions, there's sweet onions, there's a different type of onion. And luckily I got the sweet onions, which are great because the Vidalia onions, I have a sweet tooth. I like sweet more than savory, so we're going to need this in the soup. And then finally, we have our turnip that we're going to be using for the turnip salad. I'm not opposed. I don't want my turnip salad to be just turnips, so I may put some of this in the soup as well, just so that we don't waste it, because otherwise I don't know when I'll be using a turnip anytime soon. So I'm going to be working on getting some of this chopped up before my brother gets here to have it ready to go, to save some time, and then we'll come back and then put it all together with the soup, walk through it, answer some Q&A, and just get ready to have ourselves a nice dungeon stew. So give me just a second and I'll be right back. Okay, so my brother has joined me reluctantly as we make this stew. So as my brother can show you, I've been cooking this bacon in this pot right here. So we've got some grease and stuff, some juices that we'll be using for the broth. It's starting to get brown, so I'm getting ready to take it out for now. We're gonna take it out of the pot for the moment, crank this back down to being on a lower heat setting because we don't want to burn any vegetables. So we're just going to basically scoop all this out and put it in a little pan out to the side. It's very important, if you're going to make soup or anything that involves mixing meats and vegetables, always do the stuff with your meat first for contamination purposes. I do remember from cooking classes that I took back in 4-H when I was like 8, that you want to make sure that anytime you mess with meat and vegetables, you always do your meat stuff first. And that way it gets out of the way and it doesn't contaminate your vegetables and cause lovely things like E. coli, because bro, you don't want food poisoning, right?
Uh-huh.
All right, so we're gonna let that bacon sit out there to the side for the moment. And then the next thing that it told us to do was to take our cabbage, and I feel like I'm gonna have this trash can open the whole time, but to take our cabbage, you'll notice that I went ahead, peeled the potatoes. Basically, with that, I didn't want you sitting here watching me peel potatoes for 12 minutes, and I didn't want my brother to chide me for massacring a potato. So, did that off camera where we didn't have to worry about that. So I did do my potatoes, carrots. I did some carrots already. I figured I'd go ahead and show you me cutting carrots to make sure you realize I actually did things for this. For the turnip salad, I only put a few little carrots in here because, like I said previously, I don't think my brother's gonna want turnip salad. Am I right?
Yep.
So this is just gonna be for me, and I don't really like raw carrots, so we're just putting just enough in there to call it good. But we are gonna take our cabbage and do some stuff with it. And then I went ahead, took the ends off the turnip. We'll mess with that here. And then I went ahead and peeled the top layer off of the onion. And it is, I will tell you, very therapeutic to sit there and peel that layer off the onion. It was like a very therapeutic process. It was great, but we'll deal with that here in a second. So what we're gonna do is essentially take our cabbage and we are going to cut the end of it off. Cut it at the stem. And take that. And then our directions say to basically, and I'm trying to read my own handwriting, remove the stem and the outer layer of the cabbage and cut into quarters and put into the large pot. So we have this obviously here. We're gonna just cut it in half, like so. And then take our quarter, it's kind of already quartered now, but we're gonna just cut it one more time, get that in there, and then we're gonna put down in this our cabbage. Lovely layers. Again, we're reusing our Napa cabbage, getting it all out in there. I do love a good cabbage, and that is going to actually reduce and kind of wrinkle up as we go. So the next thing we're gonna do is to peel our carrots and cut into 1-inch pieces. So I'm gonna get that down in there. I feel like a lot of this is just basically nerds trying to make food because some of the cooking videos I watch, they're very skilled and they have a lot of finesse with cooking. I'm basically like, if you were in your apartment being like, I'm gonna make this food, what's it gonna be like? It's authentic that way, right? Bro, you can attest to my cooking skills, right?
She's meh.
Don't call me mid. Anyway.
I didn't say mid, I said meh.
So we have the carrots in there with the potatoes. We're gonna go ahead and peel those and put them in there. Get that. We're gonna add the water here in a minute, so don't worry. You get that all in there. Now, we also have these onions, and what they said was to make the onions into 1/8. And I was like, well, how do I do that? I have a handy dandy apple core, an apple cutter, which you'll notice has 8 parts to it. So I was like, I wonder if I can use that on the onion to 1/8 it and not have to worry about them being uneven. So let's try that. Yes! Score! Look at that. Look at that sucker. Brilliant. That saved tears. That saved tears and time. So we're going to put that in there with our 1/8 onion. You'll notice it starts peeling out the layers, which is exciting. We're going to peel that out in there. Awesome. We're going to mix all this up when we get the water in there with the soup. But for right now, we're going to just sprinkle that in there. And that way we also don't have the core of our onion. So I don't know, bro, do you cry when you cut onions?
No.
No tears. No manly tears coming from cutting these onions. And then we're going to do that with our other onion as well. What am I doing wrong? I think, oh my God, the bottom layer. This is the price we pay for good food. All right, get our onion in there. I'm glad they definitely told us sweet onions, because had they not, I would have been a little bit like, this is a lot of onion. But like I said, a lot of this will reduce down as it's in the pot. So the next thing that we've got to do is add all them into the pot. We are going to sprinkle in some salt and pepper. They didn't exactly give any measurements for the salt and pepper, so we're just going to be just putting in just enough of that. We can always add more to taste later if we want to. We're going to put in some pepper in there. We're also going to add in, oh, okay, got this off. So we're going to put in some parsley over that. Okay, so I got plenty of that. And we're going to do just a little bit of minced garlic Like just a... That was plenty! That was plenty, wasn't it? Yes, So then we're gonna pour in enough water. So then we gotta take enough water and kind of pour it over. It said until it was like 2.5 inches thick with it, which I think is probably gonna be about. All right, from there it said to add the thyme. Now, it did not necessarily say how much thyme it said, it just said fresh thyme. Sprigs. I feel that seems like enough. It's a big pot, so we're gonna put enough in there. Get some of that on there. And then it said from there to put the bacon on top after that. So we're gonna take, I almost feel like I should, I don't know, I feel like I should mix up this a little bit. What do you think?
Maybe a little.
Yeah. Which it's also going to release water from the cabbage and the other ingredients, so that makes sense as well. So then we're going to take our bacon and kind of layer over that. That looks really good. Huzzah! Our bacon flowing in that. And then it said from there to place the bay leaves on, which it said 2 bay leaves, so we're going to do exactly that. But we're gonna put a couple bay leaves there. Ta-da! And then from here, it said basically to cook on medium to low heat. Medium to low for half an hour, and then low for another half hour. So we're gonna take our pot, put it on there, and we'll come back in a little bit and check on that. But in the meantime, I do want to go ahead, while I have you all here, and take care of our turnip. Just give me a second, I'm gonna clean this board off and then we'll come back for the turnip. My brother believes that I should try to handle the turnip with this, but that seems, this thing is basically a baseball if it was molded in cement. So, do you think this will work? I don't think this will work. Are you trying to punk me, Ashton Kutcher? Are you trying to get me to make a fool of myself more than I already have today?
No.
I feel like he is. I don't think this is gonna work, but we're gonna try it. Oh. It legit worked. I'm actually impressed. I thought this thing was a lot harder than the onions. So, okay.
See? Don't doubt me.
Now, I will tell you all that the turnip, I don't exactly know if I've ever had turnips except as bits and pieces in. I think my great-grandmother used to make salads and she would have turnip salad, or she would have turnips in her salads. And I remember, now that I'm cutting it open and really getting to the root of it, I think I remember why as a kid I was like, what is this? Because these turnips, the sweet onion had a very beautiful floral smell to them. This turnip, my brother's face can attest, it smells a little pungent. Would you agree, bro?
Yeah, a little bit.
It smells a little wee bit pungent, but you know what? That's all right. Maybe they'll taste really good. Now, I talked about putting the turnip in the soup, but at this point, there's a lot in that soup. I don't think we're going to do that because that seems like quite a lot. But what I will do is in the episode 4, the turnip pieces were pretty big in the salad. So we're just going to leave them. We're kind of going to, I'm going to take my knife, and my brother can show you, and I'm going to kind of try to like take these little apple slice pieces of turnip and try to like shave them down just a little bit, and maybe half them. Yeah, like that. So they're a little bit more palatable. But I don't know how this turnip salad is going to turn out. Like I said, I haven't had turnips since I was a kid, so this may be a bust, but I will at least, if anything, off screen, when you all are done watching me, I'll just drown it in Caesar's dressing and make it palatable. So that sounded like the most American thing I could say. So I'm going to cut this up here, and then when I get done with that, while the soup is basically getting done, we'll answer some questions. All right, so while we're waiting on the stew to cook, and you can see that it's starting to smell actually really good. I went ahead and made some salad, put some romaine lettuce cut up along with the turnips and the carrots. So we'll see how that turns out here in a little bit. But meanwhile, I have some questions from you all over on Patreon to answer, and my brother can answer as well. So I have 3 patrons who asked several questions to us. So while we're waiting, we're going to answer those. Liam Poles asked this first question. Have you any experiences working with raw ingredients? Basically stuff that's unprocessed that you have to prepare yourself. I find the show does a great job at showcasing the cooking process from butchery to completion. That is something that, as my brother will attest, I am learning to do, because I have become woefully aware throughout these last couple of weeks that I don't work with raw ingredients, hardly at all. I'm not a cook, so I'm very much the kind of let's get it out of the freezer, put it in the microwave, put it in the oven, heat it up and go, or get takeout. So I don't normally cook. So this show has been a challenge to learn how to cook and work with ingredients. But I will say this, for this week's recipe, like the turnip, the carrots, the potatoes, the cabbage, all of the thyme, basically you could get everything to make this meal and have plenty of leftovers for under $10, which kind of surprised me, but I'm like, because you have to work for it, they don't charge you as much. So if you are somebody that likes going cheap and not spending a lot on your vegetables or your groceries, this was definitely kind of a case in point of you can make meals that are actually really good for not a lot of money. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Now the bacon was pricey, but that's because it was bacon. You could substitute it out with anything else. Bro, do you have any experience working with raw stuff, or are you kind of in the same boat?
Pretty much the same boat.
So Liam poses other questions. One of them was, which character would you want to go camping with? Senshi? 100% Senshi? Are you kidding? Like, he knows how to cook. He has an axe, so he can help defend you if a bear comes around. He can make you food. He's been like surviving on his own in the dungeon on that 3rd level for how long? He knows how to grow things on golems, which I hadn't even thought of. Senshi is like a do-it-all like survivalist. He is your guy that you're like, yes, that one. Him, me, we got this. We can figure this out. Bro, would you say anybody different?
I'd agree, but I wouldn't trust him to like sell any of the produce.
Maybe not. Maybe not. That part might be a little up in the air. The other question they had was, which would you want to grab a drink with? Now, my brother and I don't drink a lot. My brother doesn't drink at all. No. But if I were to spend an afternoon at a bar with someone of the cast that we've met so far, as of episode 4, my instinct would be to say Chill Chuck, but I think Chill Chuck would get annoyed with me after a while and wouldn't want to talk to me anymore, and he'd be like, okay, we're done. I would want to have a drink with Laios, because Laios seems like the kind that if he drank, one, I think he'd be a lightweight, and 2, I think that he would be like a philosophical drunk, where if he drank anything, he'd start spouting off about monster lore or about things and being like, but what about this in the dungeon? What about that? I think Laios would be hilarious to watch and see. Like, you just sit there and be like, okay, what do you think about this topic, Laios? And he'd have a whole spiel. What about you, bro? If you had to spend the afternoon with one of them, who would be, of who we've met so far?
Probably Laios as well. He also seems like the guy that'll make sure you get home.
Yeah, that is such a good point. Laios is dependable. He'd at least look after you. Chill Chuck would leave you abandoned on a curb. He'd be like, bye. And then Marcel, I love Marcel, but she'd
be the ultimate lightweight, just picking a fight the second somebody looks at her.
She would be the drunk that would get in fights with people, and then you'd have to drag her away, and I don't want that responsibility. I don't want to deal with that. Laios at least would get you home. So that's a good point. No. Marcel would be the most entertaining to watch in a bar, but I wouldn't be having a drink with her. I'd be like over in another group watching her go crazy. So that's a good point. Icy asked the question, this is a more general question, but I'd love to have your thoughts on the world building at the beginning of the series and then at the end of the series. So yeah, obviously we're only 4 episodes in, so there's been a lot of world building so far, but I'm sure by the end of episode 24 it's going to be a lot crazier. I really like the world building. I think the part I like the most about it is that the show reveals little bits and pieces as you go. Like, you have a general idea of what's going on, but then, like with episode 3 with the living armor, the whole fact that Laios took the living armor with him and his sword, episode 4 doesn't reference it at all. I was convinced that they were going to talk about it in episode 4. Nope, don't even reference it. What sword? What living armor? So it's one of those situations where I feel like as you go through the show, you're going to forget about things. And then the show is going to be like, hey, remember that one thing from way back in episode 3? And you're like, Wah. So I am excited to see where that goes to from here. Elfreya asks 2 questions. These are the last 2 from Patreon. Elfreya says, 1, more of a general question in honor of our poor girl Marcel. What is a dish or food that you're too afraid to eat? And I'm assuming that that's food that we haven't ate before, that I'm too afraid to eat. I would answer that question with, I don't like oysters and I don't like slimy things. I don't like the texture of it. I would say that anytime some people are like, oh, you could have cow tongue or brains or something like that, I can't do it. I couldn't eat cow tongues or like, what do they have, like bull testicles or something you can fry up? I could not eat that. I'm like, it's a texture thing, but it's also a knowing what it is thing. I'm like, I don't think I could do that. Bro, is there anything that you'd be afraid to eat?
Pufferfish.
Because of the poison?
Yeah. The whole meal turns from delicious to deadly based on how good the guy is with a knife.
True. You haven't watched the Apothecary Diaries, have you?
No.
You should. Anyway, but yeah, that's a good point. Also, I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, the idea of someone preparing it and that determines whether it's good or not, or edible or not, is a good point. But yeah, can't do testicles, can't do brains, can't do any other organ that I'm like, not familiar with. Then their other question is, can you think of a food or meal that you enjoyed more before you knew how it was made? When I was a kid, I ate Vienna sausages all the time. And if you don't know what Vienna sausages are, they were a little tin can and they just had like little tiny pale pink sausages. And as a kid, I thought they were the most delicious thing in the world. But now that I'm older and knows what's involved in making those sausages and the parts of the animal that are condensed into those sausages, I just can't look at it the same way, and I don't know if I'd be able. Plus, when you're a kid, you don't think about it, but I saw someone open a can of them up recently, and there's just like that film of preservatives on top, that like Jello preservatives. I was like,
it adds flavor.
I can't do it. I was like, no, when I was a kid, I loved it, but I'm like, blah, nope, I don't think I can go back. What about you, bro?
Not really.
My brother has like a steel tank of a stomach and can hang with the best of them, so he's worried about poisons and legit things. That could be a problem, but yeah, so I think that would be it. But I really enjoyed those questions. I'm obviously going to be sending out on Patreon a form when we get to episodes 5 and 6 to talk about questions for those episodes. I'll probably do it every 2 episodes, so be thinking of your questions for episodes 5 and 6 when we get to them. But as you can see, this has been going for about 10 minutes now. It's starting to simmer down. It smells really good. The thyme and the onions, it smells great, but you can see it's starting to reduce down. We're gonna let this go for a while and then come back to y'all and have some lunch. My brother, of course, brought up the fact that during episode 4, Senshi also makes some yeast rolls while they're visiting the orcs. And that was probably the part that I was most concerned about, because making bread from scratch, if you've watched the Great British Baking Show, it's a lot. So I decided to basically just make us a couple rolls. It seemed like it was going to be a hard task because you've got to take the yeast and the flour, mix that with the water, and then you have to hand press it into the dough. And then the hardest part is getting the dough shaped and then proving the dough and then getting it to where you can put it in the oven on a heat source. And I really thought that this hard process, it took me a lot of time to get it done, but I really think that through a lot of hard work and determination, I was able to make it work to our advantage and get some really good rolls out of it. This looks like the most nutritious meal I've had in a long time. So, these amazing rolls I did not make, as you may have guessed from 30 seconds ago, but we did have rolls because you can't have soup without a roll. That's just how it goes. So, the turnip salad, as you can see, I did do some romaine in it as well. I did not want to put olive oil in it like some of the recipes suggested, because I feel like that would make the salad really, I don't like an oily salad, and plus if you have to set it out for a while, it makes the lettuce and the carrot greens like really limp and wilty. So I did put a little bit of some chili sauce on the just here. It's kind of oily, but has like a chili taste to it. So we're just gonna go ahead. I know what romaine and carrots taste like, but we're gonna get some turnip in this and turn up this party.
Boo.
Don't judge me. I only put like 1/4 of a turnip in here and save the rest. I don't regret that decision. Turnips are fine, but they're very aromatic and they have a lingering taste, kind of like a radish. Yeah, no, it's okay. Would I eat a turnip every day? Probably not, but with the chili sauce and the carrots and lettuce, it'll be fine. If you don't want to eat like a rabbit, then probably not for you, but I think it was fine. If I was in a dungeon, I'd probably need my greens. That wouldn't be a bad place to get them. And if they're from the back of a golem, then sure, fine. But let's get into the heartier substance, which is our soup. The one thing I was worried about is that the carrots, which were super hard, that over the course of an hour would not get to be tender, and they actually legit are, which is great. I was afraid they'd still be like really hard to eat. No, those are good. With some sweet onion and potato all up in here. And the cabbage ended up on the bottom of the pot, which I thought was gonna not work out well, but it's like really simmered down really well. And the bacon in there too. I didn't get the bacon too brown, so it kind of has like, it just a stew meat and potatoes feel. My brother can attest, but it smells really good. The thyme and the bay leaf made it really smell just really savory, and I like it all together. I don't know. My brother will have to probably comment himself, but I think if I'm gonna be rating the meals so far, I would actually put hot pot last, which surprises no one because I'm sure we did hot pot wrong. I actually would rank the stew above the omelet, which my brother will chide me that I didn't mix the ingredients properly for the omelet, but he's like an omelet connoisseur, so that should have been my first mistake. But having him help me make omelets when he makes omelets all the time, big mistake. So I honestly like this stew the most. Turnip salad I could do without if I needed it, sure, but this is gonna, I have a whole pot of that back there. This is gonna keep me with food and meals for like the next week. So I'm going to find ways to make like grilled cheeses and sandwiches and things to go with this so that I can use it. But I think this is a great meal. I think Senshi maybe knows what he's talking about. Who knows? He's just been on the 3rd floor of that dungeon for how long? Anyway, so I hope you all enjoyed this cooking demonstration. I hope you all enjoyed episode 4 of Dungeon Meshi, aka Delicious in Dungeon. I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back next week as we explore our cooking options for episode 5 of Delicious in Dungeon. Bye!